Hey everybody, it's Ron from Ron's Computer Videos, and I want to thank my guests that are here tonight. We're going to talk about a brand new event for the vintage and retro computing communities. INIT HELLO. Kat, Paul, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yep, thanks.
Very cool. Hey, do you guys want to maybe take just a second and tell the folks at home about yourselves? Kat, let's start with you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kat, Lady Aileros. I have been knocking around the Apple II community for about 2016. My thing is playing the old games on the old machines and starting events, apparently.
Paul.
Yeah, I am. Let's see. I got here through the Apple II, when I was a kid, and then I sort of left it up until about I think 2012 when I read a blog post by Jason Scott who said, you've waited too long, your discs are gone, you are an idiot. And so I kind of raced back. I got a 2GS, got some stuff to try to image my discs. They were all fine. Jason was a little overdramatic, but I've been kind of sort of collecting things since then. And I mean, you can sort of see in the background it never ends. But it was that 2GS in 2012 that got me here.
That's awesome.
So yes, I do that. I also record the Retro Computing Roundtable podcast as well.
Very nice. So I know everybody here has a long history in computing and vintage computers and all that type of stuff. So I very much appreciate, and I think that you guys are good stewards for the brand and the hobby. And that is why you guys have started this cool new event called INIT HELLO. Why don't you guys, you can bounce back off just however you guys want to handle it. But can we learn a little bit about the event?
Sure. INIT HELLO is going to be a 2-day inaugural event. It's going to be held July 26th and 27th at the System Source Computer Museum in Hunt Valley, Maryland, which is an absolutely fantastic museum full of all kinds of retro computing memorabilia and computers. They have abacus. They start with the abacus and go forward. And we're going to have programming contests. We're going to have talks. We're going to have our keynote speaker, Lane Nooney, who come and talk about their book. It's going to be a really good time.
Paul, you going to add anything?
Oh, yeah.
I say, Paul, did I miss anything?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we can dive into each of these things individually. I mean, like there are certainly many things to say about each of those points. But yeah, it's looks like it's going to be a really fun event. We've got a lot of enthusiasm so far. It's pretty full. It's pretty packed, but not so packed that you won't have time to socialize with your friends. It's organized in like the days are in the venue, but then the nights are on your own. So there's a night between the two nights when you can go out on the town because we're locked out of the venue. So, but there's a couple of hotels nearby, and most of the people are going to be staying in one of those. So yeah, it's I'm really looking forward to it. It's quite soon, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Pretty cool. You'd mentioned System Source. I've heard a lot about System Source over the years. I've never actually been there myself. I know that there are different people kind of in the vintage computer hobby that occasionally will go out and do like a little video or something like that from there. But for the people at home who have not been to System Source or aren't very familiar with System Source, why don't you guys talk a little bit about the venue?
So System Source, I live an hour and a half from it, and I didn't know it was there until I found, and I don't even remember how I tripped over it, but they have workshops about every quarter, and I went to one, and I was you walk in to this building in Hunt Valley. It's in an industrial park. You would never know it was there. But you walk in and like this is just this huge, there's an entire, you walk by some really cool rooms. So they've got a whole room that's dedicated to a Cray setup. Mm-hmm. They've got a whole room that's dedicated to like mini computers, big iron. And then you walk into the main space and there's just displays of Apple iMacs, and they have a replica Apple One, and then over here there's a whole but all the different Tandy stuff, and there's lots of different IBMs, and then they have a whole room that's a big IBM mainframe setup that last time I was there, they were still trying to figure out power for it. They're still trying to figure out how to power the whole thing, because
just get a couple of 100-foot extension cords. You'll be fine.
Well, no, they need, those machines need they need even more than a dryer. Like
here's your 4-phase.
Yeah, they need they need a lot of power. They're going to probably have to have some wiring put in, but and so it's all it is arranged very nicely. You can walk around, and they do offer guided tours, and that is something we are going to have available. Is one of the museum docents is going to give tours, and then it's attached to the National Electronics Museum. They're co-located, so you can kind of wander through there. And you can see a lot of radio history, a lot of they have an Enigma machine on display.
Oh wow!
Or I think that's what it is. I have not really gotten into that side of it, but they have some really cool looking stuff on display. And until recently, but I'm very excited. The Bloop Video Game Museum was co-located there, but Bloop just got their own building in Pittsburgh. So their Bloop is in the process of kind of moving out.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to be. You think they'll be gone already by the end of the day?
He would like. I think he would like to be, just because he's got so much on his plate. They have so. And and then what they don't have on display is just fantastic. They have a huge warehouse full of just cool stuff.
I know that sometimes it's because there's a lot of folks that are like, hey, like our missions are very, very similar. We should definitely team up to do some of those things. So like VCF East has, they have their museum there of vintage computing. There's also other organizations there, like there's a maritime museum, there's radio museum, there was model trains, there was all those type of things. So I understand that it's like the preservation hobby, which is honestly kind of what a lot of this is. Like I think people have figured out that it's like the more people we can get working together, maybe the better. But Paul, I saw that you had maybe something shared, some system source, or you had a website up or something that were you wanting to show some of that, or?
Well, yeah, I've been sort of like looking at the Computer Museum at System Source site, and just to sort of highlight how amazing this is. I did want to just sort of like show some pictures of the virtual. But yeah, huge space.
Absolutely.
And it has, you can see that it's got, big displays of we're seeing an IMSI here. There's, a whole, sort of Apple section. There's a replica Apple One, Apple III, Apple II, Elisa, so it's definitely, it's bigger than you might think if you only heard someone talking about it. I mean, and all of this stuff is not the space where the space where the event is going to be is off, it's somewhere else. All this stuff is going to be still set up. I mean, it's,
I was going to say, my understanding is they have conference room areas and learning spaces and workshops and things like that are separate just from the main museum part. So this is come to INIT Hello and sit in on our panels and do workshops and meet and hang out with your friends. But then while you're there, also check out this other thing that just happens to be happening next door.
Yeah. And actually, one other thing that's true about this is that you may have sometime in your past come across the DigiBarn. Right. So this was what's his name? I always forget his name. Bruce Damer had this barn full of collected mostly Apple stuff, and in sort of presently most of that collection is now at the Computer Museum at System Source. So if you were so not only is the Computer Museum at System Source a big well curated long running collection, but it's also got this other high profile collection in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really nice. It's good when people think a little bit ahead there, where it's like, hey, it's the preservation side of the hobby. It's like we got to get this stuff somewhere that it's going to be cataloged and made available for people to see, for years to come. So.
And I can tell you that it does look different even now than, I don't know when these pictures were taken, but there is some different stuff on display now even than what we're looking at in these pictures. Sure. So they're always kind of tweaking it. Like when I first started going there, they had a room that was dedicated to sun, and they've changed that over a little bit too. So they're always kind of changing and updating the displays.
Mm-hmm. Linotype.
Yeah, there's a huge linotype. Yeah, the linotype is very cool.
That's awesome. I think it's important that young people have these experiences too, because it's you're sitting there with your tablet and things like that. And we all remember watching Star Trek and things like that. And it's like how that was just like so futuristic. Like this was just so far out there. And to go in and see some of these like mechanical calculators and to see where computing kind of started, I think that's valuable. It's like how far we've come and all that. But I also wanted to ask, I know that you're both Apple II enthusiasts, and that's kind of where I know both of you from, is the Apple II user community and all that. But the event, the name has kind of a special meaning and a special significance with the Apple II. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
I'll let Paul handle this one, because I think you were more instrumental in coming up with the name you had than I was. I wanted to call it Untitled Apple II Event, but we did not want to run afoul. We did not want to. We also did not want to bait Apple's lawyers. So the group mind came up with something much better, and I'll let Paul speak to that.
Well, that's why you tell them. It's like, no. It's an Untitled Apple event, but it's the music company. Oh no, wait.
Yeah,
we're in more
they
trouble.
They all have lawyers.
We can't have the Beatles after us. Wait a minute.
Yeah, no. The whole process of putting this together, and this has come together in relatively short order. I mean, I think this was probably, I don't know, early March when this started being put together. But so there was a bit of discussion of like, what should we call it? And in fact, the Untitled Apple event made it far enough that someone made I think Eric made a Untitled Goose Game like mock-up from the Panic game. But yeah, so I think Jeremy Rand is the one who gets the credit for this particular name. INIT HELLO is for anyone who's a Mac person and not an Apple II person. If you boot up an Apple II and want to format a new floppy disk, the procedure is to type on the command line init for initialize, init, and then the name of the program, which is conventionally hello. That's the startup program, the whatever autoexec.bat, right? Mm-hmm. And so init hello just means we're starting afresh. We're starting a new thing. It's open. It's clear. It's awaiting your contributions, right? So
very cool.
I do really like it because it's one of these things that it's very Apple II. I mean, like,
yes.
Like if you use the Apple II, you know this phrase. If you hear this phrase, you know it's the Apple II. It's not just like DIR or something like that. But,
so. I was going to say, if it was the Macintosh equivalent, it'd be Go Finder.
Yeah.
It's all right. I got to reach behind. I got to find the programmer key. Oh wait, who took the programmer key off my Mac Plus? Wait a minute.
Right.
Yep.
But that's really good. I like that. It's new beginnings and new adventures and trying something new, and especially making a multi-day shorter experience, but yet shorter experience for people kind of more on the East Coast. I know that there are a lot of these VCF events that are popping up around the US. The kind of like that area of the US where INIT HELLO is taking place, you have VCF East, but I think that has like a very specific kind of flavor. There are just because of that the location where it's held in Wall, New Jersey, it's like that. It's that military kind of retired military base and all the other things there, and it's I think it has like a very certain thing. I'm very excited to see what INIT HELLO is able to kind of create as its culture, especially because it's, you know, you guys are a system source next year. You might have plans for some. I don't know anything, and I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but you might move or do other things, and you know, or have sister events and things like that, and that's all really great. I'm very excited to hear about how open and how just kind of like, just ask us anything that you guys have been about the planning and the execution of all this. So kudos to the committee for you know, being transparent on those things.
And that's what we're trying to do. And right now, committee is kind of a loose coalition of people who really just stepped up to help when this. I joke, but it's not really a joke, that this whole thing is just a massive case of scope creep. Because
we were just going to get together for pizza. Now it's
that's literally what it was. No, that's literally what it was. I was asking around some of the community, like, a lot of us, can't travel or whatever. Does anybody want to like Venmo me $30 and we'll get a hotel party suite somewhere and we'll bring our apples and we'll just hang out and have our own little like event.
Yeah.
And all of us
a friend's vacation.
Yeah, a friend's vacation type of thing. Maybe if we could find an Airbnb, something like that. But it very rapidly became apparent that there was a need in the community for something smaller and more intimate and more accessible than 2 days, lower cost, and then some of the other like some of the other events that are out there. And
it's priced very much like a VCF kind of event.
Yeah.
So
it is.
I mean, it's
it is.
I don't even know. Yeah, it's in the same wheelhouse. Like, I always exhibit at VCF, so I don't pay attention to. But then it all kind of fell into place because I was at a system source workshop while a lot of this was happening, and I was just kind of like, I wonder if we could rent this space. And I asked some of the people there, and they're like, yeah, that might be something we can do. Let's chat. And like 2 weeks later, I'm in charge of, which the joke is, I used to do anime conventions in my much younger days when I lived in Pittsburgh, and I swore I would never do this again. So here I am. About a week later,
with having balloon hand.
A week later, I'm running this event. I'm talking to an attorney to get incorporated. We've got people, willing to help us. We've got people creating art. We've got people. Everybody's like super excited. Like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? This sounds amazing. What can we do? And just like the way the community pulled together, everybody's like, oh, how are you spinning this up in 4 months? It's a combination of, this is not my first rodeo, but mostly the fact that the community has come together to make this happen.
Yeah.
Well, it's really good that you guys have been able to draw on a team of like-minded people that are kind of committed to your, like, the success the first year, the toughest year.
It is.
Of just figuring out like all the moving parts. So I'm very excited for the event. I'm very excited for you guys. I know that you've got a lot of cool things planned. One of those things you were talking about the speakers earlier, and Lane Nooney, like your kind of keynote is for folks that maybe don't know Lane. Do you want to maybe talk a little bit about her, and then maybe talk about maybe some of the sessions or other things that you have planned for the day?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna because Paul, I gotta say, Paul's been working super, super, super hard on the schedule. He's much better at this than I am.
Great.
Sure. I can talk. I can talk a little bit about this. So, yeah, there just recently, I think it was 2022. Maybe it's 2023.
Paul, do you want me to bring your screen up? Do you have something on your screen? Okay.
Yeah. So there's a book, The Apple II Age, how the computer became personal. This was published in I think it was 2023 by Lane, and it's essentially it's an academic book, but it's looking at essentially kind of like how segments of society spun up in reaction to the computers arriving, and it sort of uses the Apple II as this sort of centerpiece. So it's divided into like a couple of different segments of software, and then exemplified by one in each segment. So there's I think there's like adventure games, I think, are in there. I forget now, but the Photoshop is definitely one of them.
Print shop.
Print shop. The P shop.
The other P shop.
Yeah. And so this, sort of a discussion of kind of like the industries that sparked and that kind of thing. And in fact, actually, when the cover came out, there was a little bit of like grousing about the cover, because how could this be a book about the Apple II? And what is this? This is not a picture of the Apple II. But in fact, this is actually quite a deep cut, because if you are using print shop on the Apple II and you want to find a picture of a computer, that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a well picked. I didn't hear about the controversy about it, but I was like, that's absolutely from the Apple II version, like the earliest version of like print shop. That's computer. That's computer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But
it is a little tandy, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think it is. I knew what it was.
It's a specific thing, and I can't think of it.
Yeah, North Star Advantage, maybe
something like that.
But so Lane is an associate professor of media industries at New York University, and will be coming to give the keynote, sort of on the topic of the book, a recent book, and I think, this will be I think a really interesting chance to sort of hear about how the book came to be and the sort of thoughts behind it and so forth. So
very cool.
I think it was. I think it was a good get for our schedule.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's nice to have somebody that's close, that it's maybe even possible to drive, or it's a short flight. So that definitely helps entice people to get to where you are. But I have not read the book. I've read reviews of the book, and I've talked to people that are familiar with the author and familiar with the book itself, and it's been nothing but positive. Nothing but a positive feedback that I've heard. So I now that I see that it's available as an audiobook, I drive a lot, so I absolutely will have to pick that up.
Yeah, and actually, it only just became available as a paperback, so there will be some paperbacks on site for signing.
Very nice
as well.
Cool.
So yeah. So what else? I guess we could talk a little bit about the actual schedule.
Because I said you put that's why I said you put the schedule. You kind of I took a stab at this and it was not great. Paul was like, no, this is what it should look like.
Yeah, so it's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. It starts at 9 on each day, and we definitely wanted. There's a couple of things that we tried to do. We want. This is a social event, really. We don't want someone to show up and have their time packed from 9 to 9, with no breaks in between. Actually, this does remind me too of something else that I think is a little bit different from the VCF exhibit type space. There is a big workspace, and the idea is that people will be able to bring in their own computers and set up a little thing there. It's not, if someone wanted to show off a thing that they had, they can do that. If they wanted to sit there and program their assembly language program, on their 2C, they can do that.
Nice.
The space is free for that. So it's not.
That is kind of a unique thing to have kind of an open, because normally you do have exhibitors and things, but to have kind of an open space where people could come in and collaborate or come in and show things off.
Yep. Bring your toolbox.
Yep.
That's pretty great.
But yeah, so we'll have a vendor area, so there'll be some have signed up. Hopefully, some others will sign up, to bring things that they sell. We've got that kind of sort of contained within their morning so that the vendors themselves can go participate. Because I mean, that's no fun if you're selling something and you get stuck behind your table.
That's good.
So, basically, the Saturday morning is all kind of like, socializing, setting up, vending, and then after lunch is when stuff sort of kicks off. There's a 6-line programming contest, which I am running, I guess, and I'm pretty pleased about that. PR number 6 is what I called it, but
nice.
6 is the standard slot in which the disk controller goes on an Apple II. So we were just talking about that actually on the retro computing roundtable. Like this is just opaque. Like how do you boot a disk? You tell the printer, you tell the computer that the printer is in slot 6, and your disk starts. But anyway, so then we have a keynote. We left a space for a tour if you want to take a tour, a guided tour of the space. We don't have anything conflicting with that. And then we have presentations and workshops. So Mark Pilgrim's going to talk about Total Reprint, which is a new print shop project. And David Schmidt is going to do hands-on with a disk imaging applesauce set. He may, in fact, there's a new version of this device that may, in fact, be available at that point, the Applesauce Plus. It's not clear.
Oh, wow.
There's also a Fujinet.
Heard it here first.
Yep.
Yep. So a couple of things with Fujinet. One, just sort of like telling you what you can do with Fujinet. And then there's also a workshop telling you, if you have an Apple II, how you can program something that uses the Fujinet, and that's sort of an interactive workshop where you actually have a development loop where you develop something and send it to the Apple to test and so forth.
Nice.
And there'll be a soldering workshop and a 3D printing design boot camp. Shufflebook championship. So there was the Mac people among your audience will certainly know Shufflebook Cafe.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is like one of the best games for the 9-inch, black and white Mac.
Oh yeah, that's a very classic, sort of one of those experiences that everybody had. Yeah.
But this is just recently ported to the entire 8-bit Apple II line, and not only that, but it has 2-player mode. So that's exciting. This is like a brand new release, and we're going to do a championship there.
That's great.
And it continues. I mean, I guess, so maybe I shouldn't talk about each and every talk, but there are a few more of these sort of presentations. Jason Scott's going to come and tell us what his viewpoint is on what we've done and what's left to do and that sort of thing.
You will have to bring all of your discs, Paul, and say, listen, you said they were bad, but you're welcome to test them.
Right. Yeah.
You should just hold up a generic disc. Sure. Have you archived this?
Yes. Anyway, but I'm super looking forward to this. I'm sure I'm going to sleep for 3 days when it's over. But so I think it's a nice mix of activities and presentations and social time and cool stuff to see when you're not doing that. So
that's great. It's cool to see you guys have a full schedule for the first year. I know a lot of times it's kind of like it's the first year, because Kat, you were saying it's like, I used to do Anime Con stuff and all of that, where there would be, it's like, sorry, there's a 4-hour block where you kind of make your own fun. It's and I get it. Sometimes it's like that, even at big events where it's just like, I'm waiting between talks but it's nice to have a little bit of breathing room. But even with that, you guys have a packed schedule of stuff that's going on the whole time. So it's nice. You can kind of dip in and dip out of some of those things, or, hey, I'm not in the programming contest, but maybe this is the perfect time to go and take another tour or sit in and finish up, or go to this kind of the multi-use space and see if there's any, hey, are people gaming in there, or, just kind of check all those things out. So that's really cool. I was also going to ask, what was I thinking? I was thinking about something because I saw what you had there on the screen. It made me, it kind of triggered. I can't remember what it was. I'm sure that I'll remember it later and I'll reach out to you both. But,
okay.
And that's fine.
That's cool. Yeah, it's something. That's okay. But uh, so you've got huge. Oh no, this was it. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I was going to ask if you guys were going to record your keynote sessions or some of these, like, just sort of like even YouTube shorts or something like that, of kind of like some of like the soldering classes and things like that, just for by way of promotion, or make those available after the event. Or I didn't know what the additional media stuff was going to be for the first year.
We're definitely recording all of like the talks, like the presentations. So we are gonna get that going. So we because we do want to archive Lane, and we do want to archive anybody that's kind of standing there giving a talk. I don't know that we're going to necessarily be able to archive, like, I'm doing the 3D boot camp, and it's going to be me like this is Onshape. It is parametric CAD that's free, and this is how you make a sketch. This is how you turn it into a box. And now you know how basically you know how the software. This is how the software works at the most basic level. And now go forth and create. Here's where you can go to get more, information. Here's where you can go to get like more if you want to really get start doing their learning path. They have that, but this is just to get yourself in the software and see what you can do. But I don't know how me showing and then people doing on a computer, I don't know how well that's going to translate to a YouTube video.
Oh no, I understand. I'm mostly just meant to kind of like capture some of the highlights. So like after the event has settled and you guys have had some time to breathe, that people that couldn't make it could still maybe share some of those experiences and get them excited about future events. Speaking of which, have you guys started to make any plans for 2026?
A little bit. I've been kind of thinking about it, and a lot of it depends on what comes out of 2025 based on a number of different factors that play into this. What 2026 looks like depends on what comes out of 2025, both in user, like how happy are people, what do people want, what was good, what could we do different, etc., feedback. And then obviously there's what I want to do, and there's what we're able to do with the resources that we have. I have talked to a couple of places in Pittsburgh, just because there's also some really cool computing history. The Large Scale Systems Museum is in Pittsburgh. Bloop is moving to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh would be another, and that's where I used to run, when I did run anime conventions. I'm pretty familiar with the Pittsburgh like hotel and convention scene, or at least I was. So that's an option. Doing maybe like a longer event at System Source is an option. Looking for a hotel or conference space still in the Baltimore-ish area.
Sure.
I don't want to get too much closer to the city because we want to keep costs down as much as we can. And system, the parking is free. So like it's in a nice location. You can fly in. You can either Uber. If there is light rail that goes to the area, it takes a little longer, but there is public transportation at you can get off at this one station and be basically there. But it's a lot of it depends on where we think we can go without growing too fast.
Sure.
We don't want to overextend our reach and kill the event. It's just I've seen having done this for a very long time. I worked in the anime convention sphere for about 9 years in my late 20s and early 30s. And I saw many an event, they tried to grow too much. You have to keep, we want to go from here to here, but then you can't kill yourself. You can't do that in 1 year without, and then the event folds because they try to do too much too soon. Right. And, I know what I'd love it to be, but we have to work our way up. So it could be right. Like I'm getting ideas of how much things cost, but if we're going to be able, what we're going to be able to do with the resources we have, but so it's a lot up in the air. Because to be honest, right now I'm really hyper focused on making this a good event, so people want to come back.
Absolutely,
because that's at the end of the day what we need to do.
Yeah,
you have to put something on the first year.
It's true. You got to get the first one out the door, and then you can kind of think about the rest of it. But
right now, working on MVP, minimum viable product.
Yeah. But it sounds like you guys have a good beat on where you're at right now, where you're headed, and then what the potential future could be. You certainly, I know that a lot of these events, people like shoot for the moon that first year, everybody burns out, and then that's kind of the whole thing of it. The people don't know kind of how to scale things. Yeah, and so it sounds like you guys have set some very reasonable expectations. You've got a nice venue that is a good safety net for activities and keeping people entertained and staying on brand for what your event is, because it's not just strictly Apple II stuff. It's kind of a celebration of all vintage computing with a focus. Kind of more of the focus maybe on Apple IIs, at least for speakers and sessions and stuff this year. So I'm sure as more and more people reach out and see your guys' success, that you'll have all kinds of people asking to do silly questions or silly classes about Macs and things like that. You'll have to see what the future holds. But
I don't have a crystal ball. And I always, whenever people ask, well, what do you want when you think 2026 is going to look like? I can't tell you that because I can't tell you what it's going to look like on Monday morning when the dust settles.
Sure.
Then we look at, we collect, because we will collect feedback from our attendees and see what was good, what was bad, because you can always do better. Nothing is perfect.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of room for improvement, and feedback is a gift. I say that a lot.
It is,
and positive feedback, especially if somebody took the time to tell you what type of job you're doing, even if they're like they kind of say you're doing a bad job, at least they cared to let you know.
I always, I am an educator by trade. And one of the things I tell my students all the time is your critics are the one. This is from a book that we actually read. This is pretty much lifted from the last lecture by Randy Posh. Your critics are the ones telling you they still care. If you're screwing up and no one's telling you, then that's the worst place you can possibly be, because they've given up.
Absolutely.
I guess I would say here that regardless of anything, we definitely are going in with the idea that there might be more. I mean, like we're sort of like we're keeping that in the horizon, but no decisions have been made, and a lot of that will depend on what happens. So.
Great.
The idea, will there be a 2026? 99% yes.
Yeah. I already have my new Garfield calendar. It has already arrived. There will be a 2026.
Okay.
No, I think that there will be an INIT Hello 2026. What that looks like is anybody's guess. But my what's your goal? To be able to do this 2 years in a row.
That is a noble goal. So I wish you guys the best of luck, and you don't need it. You don't need it. This is a slam dunk. I'm sure you guys, this will be excellent, and people have a great time. So people that are watching this, they're signed up, but they need to travel in. Do you guys have any advice? I know that you do have a hotel. It's very possible that the window on the block might be closing here in the next few days. Do you guys have any advice for people that are, because you talked about light rail, you talked about that it's a kind of a close Uber from the airport and all that type of stuff. Do you have any advice for people traveling in that might miss the hotel window, or might just want a little advice on accommodations?
There are there's 3 or 4 hotels in the area, and the Holiday were the one that seems to be the most popular among what we have, the people we have so far, is the Holiday Inn Express. It's about a 5-minute drive, and even if you miss the block, there's still Holiday Inn Express tends to be very reasonable.
I was gonna say it's $95 a night, and it's 1 mile from the venue. So if you need to get your steps in, you can get your steps in. Going and coming. It is an industrial area.
I would say I wouldn't. Having been there, I wouldn't walk this. But just because there's you can fly into BWI. Uber's available. I think
you can take the Amtrak to Penn Station.
The Amtrak to Penn Station. Uber's available. I know the light rail goes to BWI. I think the light rail goes to Penn Station. I can't imagine it wouldn't. Baltimore's pretty decently laid out. It's just north of Baltimore, and Hunt Valley is just north of the Baltimore Beltway. So I mean, you would want to fly into BWI, Thurgood Marshall, and figure out everybody has their own. I never tell people, if you want an Uber, if you want a light rail, you would want to allow about 2 hours for the light rail. You would want to probably allow 30 to 45 minutes for the Uber, depending on what the sitch is. I don't ever Uber. It's an easy drive. It's right off of Interstate 83. So if you're driving in, it's pretty decently laid. It's like right off of an interstate. There's several other hotels around. There's a Courtyard by Marriott. There's the Holiday Inn. I
don't want to. So we got courtesy blocks at both Holiday Inn Express and Courtyard by Marriott. So I don't want to shortchange Courtyard by Marriott.
Yeah, no, they've been awesome to us. Yeah. I just know from what I've been like. No, the Courtyard's available, and I think their block is a little bit. We have that block a little bit longer than I think we have. The Courtyard, I think, is going to be. Paul has the dates, but
and
the Courtyard's going to be. What?
And I will tell them to you now.
Yes.
So we're recording this pretty close to the time, and you're hearing this probably pretty close to the time when they close. So we got Holiday Inn Express closes on June 17th, and
do you have this up on your screen, Paul? Or
I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, and I'm just reading it, so you can read it along with me.
I have the contracts in front of me, so I'm just like desperately skimming through them.
Oh yeah. So, so the 2 hotels that we listed, Holiday Inn Express and Courtyard by Marriott, are giving us a little bit of a discount and a reserved block. So the idea is that they're not going to sell out the rooms before these cutoff dates. If you miss the cutoff date, it's not a big deal. It's going to cost a little bit more. The rooms might not be there, but they probably will be. And there are other hotels in the area, so these are not make or break deadlines. Probably the worst deadline that is going to be closing too soon to do much about is the t-shirt deadline. There are shirts, but June 15th is the last day to order those in order to get them on. Get them at all. I think they're just being made at in one go.
Yes, that's.
So Sunday, June 15th. If you're watching the video after Sunday, June 15th, you will have to go on eBay and purchase one from a scalper, just like everybody else.
We may have some limited shirts. I'm thinking we may have some limited availability of shirts at the events.
Yeah,
it would but if you want to guarantee a shirt in your size, because we're using one of the core tenets that we've kind of adopted is to try and shop local as much as we can, and the shirt provider is someone that's a very small family-owned local business to me that they came highly recommended, and they've been fabulous. So
that's great.
And we got to shout. We cannot end this interview without shouting out Melissa
Barron. Yeah, she did the art.
Who did the art? We cannot go through this interview without shouting out Melissa, who did this fantastic logo art for us.
And Melissa looks great.
Yeah, she is an artist.
And then I guess maybe the only other thing to say is that registration overall closes on June 30th, so that's a little bit more than a month
Mhm.
before the actual event. But we need to be able to plan, like, how much to order and that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
So don't miss June 30th. The rest of the stuff is fairly flexible. Registration's only $90. It's not. It's basically covering lunch and a little bit of organizational stuff and the museum entrance fee. So
is there normally an entrance fee for the
Yeah,
how much is that normally?
$15 usually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So so you're getting, it's like I said, we're like Paul said, it's entrance to the event, museum, lunch for both days, and whatever other, every con has fees. So do we.
But this is actually really cheap for what you get.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
no. Yeah. This is.
And the hotels there are pretty cheap too. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's not going to be a bad weekend expense wise.
Yeah. That again,
Except the vendor fare.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But trying to keep it, over in September.
Right. Yeah. That's a non-starter.
That's a non-starter. And I know other, and there are other
folks,
events, and there's a lot, some of these events are, quite a lot. This is, it's 2 days. You could, depending on where you're coming from, you could leave on Saturday morning and get there. And you could leave Sunday night and not have to miss any work.
Yeah.
And how cool is that, just to get your feet wet in a retro computing community? Because even the VCFs usually run 3 days, and you have to take a day off. And if you want to get started right away on Friday, maybe you take Thursday to drive.
Yeah, that is kind of a sneaker thing that a lot of events do, where it's like, oh, it's a 2-day event. Well, it's a 2-day event starting on Saturday, but really anymore they start on Friday because that's like load in and things like that. So it's very nice to see you guys that you really do have a 2-day event on the weekend. So folks can you can get off work on Friday, get down there, get checked into your hotel, be ready to go Saturday morning, or travel in if you're somewhere local. Get there Saturday. You might miss part of the vendor fair, but it's okay. Get there after lunch, get to that keynote, and have a great time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
I found this on the web.
Oh, thanks, Siri. Even Siri says I'd love to go. So all right. So that's really great. How about let's go ahead. You can tell me where to go to get more information, where to go to sign up, and then we'll do a little bit of a roundtable where you guys can talk about your personal stuff and where people can find you online, and then we'll wrap it up. So tell me about the website.
Yeah, so it is init-hello.org. So everything is linked off of there. So if you can just remember init-hello.org, you'll be set.
It's on the screen.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to point at it and I'm failing miserably.
So there we've got registration deadlines, the schedule, frequently asked questions, all that kind of stuff. We also have a Discord server. So I think that's going to heat up here as we get closer. So if you want to work out carpools with somebody or ask questions about how to get from the airport or whatever, there's people there who can help with that and sort of discuss things. And so I would say the website and the Discord server are the main places to be.
And then one more thing to kind of highlight on the just because we want to, in the interest of transparency, one of the things that if you're watching this and you're interested in coming, and Paul, maybe you can hover over this. We do ask you we do ask that you read our COVID policy so that you know what you're getting into before you decide to come, because we are asking people to take some precautions.
Great.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, we don't want that to be surprising anybody at the door. So there's a fairly elaborate, sort of list of what we're expecting of our guests. So do read that before you take your flight.
Yeah. Don't book your flight before you read this.
But I mean, to put that the other way, one of the things that we really did want to do is make it possible for people who wouldn't feel comfortable, in a sort of just freewheeling, maskless environment. If they're at risk or just can't take that risk, we would still like to be able to see them.
Yes.
And so that's what we're trying to accomplish here, is to make it possible for basically everybody to come.
Great.
So in order to do that, we all need to participate.
Right.
in this. So
Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Right.
I completely understand. All right. So if folks at home, if you're interested in learning more about the event, you can head over to init-hello.org. Make sure that you check out the event policy. Make sure to check out the About page and get registered and get there.
Woohoo.
Pretty cool. And there's information on where to stay and local things that are going on. In addition to the event, you said that there's a free evening where people can get out and explore. That's really good too.
There's a lot of really good food in the neighborhood. Because I've been out to, again, because I go to workshops and events there quite a bit. There's some amazing restaurants in that area. Some really good food. And again, the Discord is going to be the hot place to get all of this, that sweet info. We do have a mailing list also. I think that's just for announcements though. So you can also sign up. But if you want to ask questions, and we have people who are local to the area on the Discord who are really good at, this is how if you want to do this, this is where you want to look.
Nice.
I wonder if the police station from Homicide: Life on the Streets is still there. It was there. I lived in Baltimore briefly, and it was still, you could still see it. It wasn't an actual police station, but it was still painted to be one. So I mean, if you were, I guess, suffering from crime and trying to find the police, it would be very disappointing, because you go to this thing that says police and there's no police there.
There's nobody there. Well, that's funny. So local landmarks, all kinds of neat things to see. If you guys ever move over, you can move over more towards Pittsburgh. You can move just a little bit further and go to Monroeville and have it at the Zombie Mall.
I don't know if the Zombie Mall is still open. So, fun fact: the 2 years I ran, it's the Pittsburgh Anime Convention. It's now named Techo, but it used to be called TekoshoCon. Don't ask. But the 2 years we had it, the 2 years that I ran it, we were at what was it then, the Monroeville Expo Mart, which is, I don't know what it's called now. And we were at the Zombie Mall. As a matter of fact, the first year we were there, cool. Greg Ayers was a voice actor. He's a voice actor. One of our guests was like, I cannot believe, after the event, he's like, I cannot believe you guys did not take me to the Zombie Mall. I have to come back to TekoshoCon so I can go to the Zombie Mall. So yes, I
think that they had talked about that the mall is under threat of being demolished.
Century 3 is the one that closed. I don't think the Monroeville Mall is doing very well. But I'm very familiar with that area. That was my old stomping ground when I was doing the really deep in the Pittsburgh convention scene.
So bad time for malls, great time for INIT Hello.
Yes.
So, all right, let's go ahead. Let's wrap things up. Kat, Paul, why don't you guys tell the audience a little bit about where folks can find you online?
I'm Lady Aileros pretty much everywhere. And I also, my big shtick is I stream. So it's twitch.tv/Lady Aileros. It is my Twitch channel. And I stream old games from old hardware. So I have just recently gotten my blue and white G3 Power Mac spun up. And I am in the middle of a playthrough of original Marathon on my Mac G3, and we're doing a Bungie retrospective. So I'm going to do Marathon, then I'm going to do Halo on my G4, and then I'm going to probably spin up my PlayStation 4 and do a little bit of first Destiny, just Destiny 1, just to kind of complete the trifecta. But so I stream. That's pretty much my big media presence.
Very cool. So folks can check out Kat on social media. Paul, you got something to share down there too again? Okay.
Yeah, I just because I bring up screens. But
I'm just watching. I want to make sure that
I'm on my laptop and I don't trust myself to do that on the lap. I'm actually away from my home base right now visiting. So I don't trust the laptop.
I get it.
But yeah, so probably the biggest thing I do, sort of in the social retro space is the Retro Computing Roundtable, which is it's a audio podcast, but we also broadcast live when we record it. I always think of the live broadcast as being kind of like the behind the scenes of the actual product, which is the audio. But at the same time, I have to edit the audio, and that makes the audio really far behind. I like to believe that I am still doing this Apple III podcast. Somewhere on one of the social media things, the bio says, the worst Apple III podcast, because in fact, it is the only one. But Em McGinnis and I had put this together, and the last episode was in 2017, but we're just on a long hiatus. And then I guess I'm the person behind yesterBits.com. I have a Blue Sky handle, yesterBits.com, and this is also almost as far out of date. So most of what I do is, INIT HELLO and Retro Computing Roundtable.
Very cool. Well, again, I'm Ron from Ron's Computer Videos. You can find what I'm doing at ronscompvids.com. Kat, Paul, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to spend it here with me and spend it with the people at home. I hope that everybody has learned a little bit more about INIT HELLO, and we'll definitely be signing up and joining you guys at System Source here in just over a month and a half.
Yeah.
I know, it's here, it's real.
Oh no, the anxiety dreams have started. Don't you worry.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. This is wonderful.
So thanks again, everybody. Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye. You too.